Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to our continuing coverage of The Long Walk. I'm your host, Bobby Thompson, and this eventful May 1st is now just 50 minutes away from becoming just another date in the calendar. We have 86 walkers remaining, and these boys have now traveled 60 miles, all of them doing their best to maintain an average pace of at least 4 miles per hour. The time is now 11:10 p.m., and there has been some gossip buzzing up and down the ranks, because word has gotten around that further down the road, a bridge has collapsed. I'm not sure how the boys caught wind of this, but ladies and gentlemen, we can confirm that there is in fact a damaged bridge up ahead along the road, one that crosses a small creek. We don't know yet the cause or the extent of the damage, but we do know that a dedicated crew of squad workers have been given the task to repair the bridge, or at least make it safe enough so that the competitors can cross. Of course, I'm sure the lads would love to see the bridge collapse completely, because then they would be able to rest their weary feet. But that is not going to happen, folks, thanks to the ingenuity of the construction squad. And the first boys are crossing, the Matego brothers. They are stepping across this patched-up bridge. Let's see if it holds. And it does. And now, the main throng, a whole slew of disappointed young walkers, are crossing the bridge, while the squad workers take a cigarette break and cheer on hometown favorite Ray Garrity, number 47. Yes, the boys are crossing the bridge, grumbling. Some of them are even swearing at the repair workers. There are crestfallen expressions on the faces of the boys. It looks like these walkers really got their hopes up that this bridge would be out. But the major is very strict about this. Once you begin the long walk, you do not stop until you win or until the soldiers punch your ticket. As we leave behind the ramshackle repairs of the bridge, we are now just 30 minutes from midnight. It has gotten about as dark as it's going to get, and it's cold out, but the weatherman says that it's going to get even colder, as low as 45 degrees over the next few hours. There are no spectators out here, only the late-night whippoorwills to cheer the boys on. There are other sounds out in the woods, too. An owl, perhaps an elk, brushing past the bushes. I can tell from my night vision goggles that the sounds are spooking more than a few of these young competitors, especially those who hail from the big cities. These boys aren't used to those strange country sounds. But number 47, Garrity, seems quite at home here, and perhaps now it's time to take a closer look at Maine's own Ray Garrity. With 12-1 odds, he's by no means the favorite, at least according to the Vegas bookies, but he is expected to make it at least as far as New Hampshire, and that's where his home field advantage will wither away. But so far, based upon the enthusiastic crowds we've seen, for the locals, Go-Go Garrity is already a champion in their eyes. And so what do we know about this young man, born and raised in a tiny town known as Portersville, Maine? Well, he's tall, lanky. He's wearing an old army fatigue jacket. I'm guessing that once belonged to his father. And speaking of his dad, that seems to be Garrity's main motivation for entering the long walk. In his application essay, he mentions that he hasn't seen his father in the last 11 years. You see, when Garrity was in kindergarten, his father was taken away into the squads. And it seems like Garrity Sr. was a bit of a malcontent and in need of some reprogramming, which, as you know, can take a lifetime. So in all likelihood, if young Garrity wins, I bet he'll use his wish to bring his dad back home. And that would indeed be a heartwarming ending to this harrowing ordeal this young man has volunteered for. And it would certainly be a happy ending for his mother, Mrs. Garrity. She lost her other child, Jeffrey Garrity, to pneumonia when the boy was only 6 years old. That would make number 47 the last of her family members. So it would be a tragedy to lose Ray as well. But of course, the pursuit of glory often leads to tragedy, as the families of the many fallen walkers will surely tell you. There's not too much to tell down on the asphalt. Walker number 22 has received a second warning, and it looks like he keeps dozing off. And that is bound to happen, folks, as the night wears on. The chattery and the camaraderie is at an all-time low as the boys begin to spread out, distance themselves from one another. Some boys still walk in pairs, but most have isolated themselves, walking in the shadows, followed by the ubiquitous hum of the half-track engine. And we are now just minutes away from midnight, and number 22, one of the many boys with the last name of Field, I think this is Brian Field, yes, if I'm not mistaken, he has slowed his walk to a snail's pace and has received his final warning. But I don't think he has noticed that. Number 22 has gone into somnambulous mode. His head is lolling back and forth while he walks. His eyes are closed. Yes, he is definitely sleepwalking, folks. And there's no one around him to wake him up except for that soldier who is fast approaching him. And number 22's ticket is punched, and the boy never saw it coming. Wow. Well, on the bright side, there's no better way to go than in your sleep. And it is now midnight. Number 22 did not live to see another day, but the 85 remaining walkers have made it to May 2nd. How many will make it to May 3rd? Only time will tell. We are now passing a dilapidated farmhouse, and though it is abandoned, there does remain a sign that reads, "Garrity's our man." And the rest of the walkers are now beginning to tease Garrity. I think all of the attention is finally getting on everyone else's nerves. The Motega brothers, still leading the way, cross another bridge, this one completely operational, and it seems the sound of the babbling brook is complemented by one of the boys playing a harmonica. Frank Morgan, number 64. Yes, he is playing the instrument, going against common sense, as well as hint number 6, which is to conserve wind. But, whatever brings you a little bit of joy. But my advice is to save your breath, Mr. Morgan. Though I do have to admit, the boy has talent. According to Morgan's application essay, if he wins, he wants to open up his own music school. Well, that would certainly be a melodious way to give back to the community. Oh, something on the road is happening. Number 10, Dominic Falco, is suddenly screaming at the top of his lungs as he's running off the road, folks. He's darting for the trees. If he's hoping to escape into the night, I'm not sure why he's making such a racket, because he has definitely captured the attention of the soldiers, and if Falco gets too far off the route... Nope. He has taken too many steps in the wrong direction, and that gets him a ticket punched. What a waste. I suppose he just snapped. The soldiers are dragging Falco's corpse from the bushes, and the combination of the screaming and the gunfire, that definitely woke a lot of the walkers out of their stupor. I would have guessed that Percy would have been the first to attempt that type of an escape. As Morgan passes by the body, he begins to play taps on his harmonica until Charlie Parker tells him to shut up. Who would have guessed that Parker would have been the dignified one of this bunch? Hopefully Falco's demise will be a wake-up call for Percy and anyone else that is thinking of making an escape attempt. And there we have thunder. And we are in for yet another spring shower. Mostly drizzle so far, but certainly not welcome to these boys. More moisture and lower temperatures, that adds up to more chances of a slip and fall in the short term, or hypothermia in the long. Folks, if you've been paying attention to number 70, Hank Olson and his journey, then you know that this teen has been in trouble since the early hours of the walk. He's had his ups and downs, and now it looks like he might be hitting a new low. Because right at this moment, even though he is still managing to stay on pace, he is saying something, and I am reading his lips, and I can see that he is talking to himself, asking, "Why did I get into this?" over and over. Such a lack of confidence surely brings him one step closer to a punched ticket. And yet Olson is by no means the worst off of the competitors right now. As we pass by a small church on one side of the road, next door to yet another graveyard, one of the walkers' gait has become very erratic. He looks drunk, weaving back and forth across the entire width of the road. This is number 45. This is Clarence Gable. No relation to Clark Gable, obviously, because this unfortunate young man might be the ugliest contestant still in the bunch. He's got a bulbous nose and a sour expression on his face. He's wearing a very long trench coat and is trying to shield himself from the rain by wrapping his arms around his head, and that might be why he seems so off balance. Ooh, he almost tripped there. That was a close one. Whoa. Oh, now he's going. Oh, he's toppling over. Ouch. He has fallen onto his knees, ripping his pants, and that is a second warning. I don't think he is getting back up, folks, and I am wrong, as per usual. Number 45 has bounced right back up, and he is, I wouldn't say he is back on track, as he is still zigzagging all over the place, but he is at least moving. Gable seems to be locked in zombie mode, and all of the other walkers are mesmerized by him. Even Olson seems to have a better rhythm in his steps now that he gets to watch someone who is worse off. And we are now passing through a very small village, really just a small assortment of houses. There are a few spectators watching from their doorsteps, sitting on their porch swings, staying out of the rain. They are cheering number 45 on as he staggers around, and Gable stumbles again, and this time it's a faceplant. That's gotta hurt. But aesthetically, it might be an improvement, and Gable receives his third warning, and now these boys know the drill. They know the drill by now. They scatter away, not wanting to be close when the guns will inevitably go off. But the boys never need to worry about friendly fire on the road here. The Major's soldiers are masters of precision. Throughout the history of the Long Walk, they have never punched the wrong ticket. Gable is up. He is up, and unfortunately his face is not an improvement. Now, his nose is clearly broken, his forehead covered with deep scratch marks, and the blood is seeping down, impairing his vision. This makes his gait all the more erratic. He is moving around the road like the scarecrow from the Wizard of Oz when he doesn't have enough stuffing in his legs. But he's still going, and at least Gable is getting out of the rain for a bit as he stumbles underneath the railroad overpass. But the respite from the rain doesn't do any good. Number 45 has fallen down again. He is trying to get up, but it seems now his legs are just refusing to walk. And here we go. Two soldiers hop off the half-track. They trot over to Gable. They are just standing there watching the 15-year-old as he attempts to crawl using his arms alone. You may remember, folks, a few years back, we had a famous case of a long walker who literally crawled for 2 miles and maintained a 4-mile-an-hour pace before they finally punched his ticket. I That was one of my favorites, but unfortunately for Gable, he just can't crawl that fast. 83 walkers remain. Barkovich, number 5, walks past the body, and a smug sneer is on his face. He almost looks like he wants to dance on the corpse, but he thinks better of it and keeps moving. The drizzle is all but gone, and now that the walkers don't have Gable's wavering stride to keep them entertained, they have settled once again into the rhythmic plod, just above the pace enough to avoid a warning. We have now reached that bewitching time of midnight, which means it is time for my annual tradition, if you'll indulge me. If you watched our broadcast before, then you know I pass these early morning hours by reciting excerpts of my favorite poem, The Dark Man, an ode to the original walking dude. And since some competitors have settled into a soporific pace, allow me to gently pass the time with a few of these mesmerizing lyrics. And if you drift off to sleep, that's fine. Just make sure to leave your TV on, otherwise our sponsors will punch my ticket. All right, here we go. The Dark Man by Randall Flagg. I have stridden the fuming way of sun-hammered tracks and smashed cinders. I have ridden rail and burned sterno in the gantry silence of hop jungles. I am a dark man. I have ridden rails and passed the smuggery of desperate houses with counterfeit chimneys, and heard from the outside the inside clink of cocktail ice, while closed doors broke the world, and over it all a savage sickle moon that bummed my eyes with bones of light. I have slept in glaring swamps where muskreek rose to mix with the sex smell of rotting cypress stumps, where witch-fire clung in sunken psychospheres of baptism, and heard the suck of shadows, where a gutted columned house leeched with vines speaks to an overhung mushroom sky. I have fed dimes to cold machines in all-night filling stations, while traffic in a mad and flowing flame streaked red in 6 lanes of darkness, and breathed the clever hitchhike wind within the breakdown lane, with thumb leveled, and saw shadowed faces made complacent with heaters behind safety glass, faces that rose like complacent moons in riven monster orbits, and in a sudden jugular flash, cold as the center of a sun, I forced a girl in a field of wheat, and left her sprawled with a virgin bread of savage sacrifice, and a sign to those who creep in fixed ways. I am a dark man. It is now 3:30 a.m. We recently lost Davidson to a punch ticket. According to his application essay, his proudest moment was seeing a naked lady at the Steubenville State Fair. A life well lived. We have 75 walkers still on this ever-winding road, and I wanted to take a moment to marvel at not just the stamina of number 88 Stebbins, but his consistency. Throughout this evening, I have noticed every single walker working through fatigue, staggering at times. I've even seen the odds-on favorite, the tall and handsome Mr. Scram, number 85, slapping himself in the face to keep awake. I've seen all of these things with all of the walkers, but not Stebbins. That young man, the slowest yet steadiest of the bunch, has remained as constant as the North Star. All the other teens have been rightfully concerned about falling behind the pace, and so most walkers have shuffled along well above the 4 miles an hour pace. Unlike number 88, who has an uncanny knack for strolling at 4.1 miles an hour with very little variation. And it's no surprise that more and more armchair walkers back at home are joining the ranks of Team Stebbins. Normally, Stebbins has been at the rear of the procession, but every once in a while he passes a straggler, or in this case, he is passing right now number 11, Michael Feldman, who is not so much a straggler as he is a sitter. Yes, for the past 2 hours, while I was reading my little poem to you, this young man has been experimenting with a dangerous strategy, one that every exhausted walker has been tempted to try. Number 11, Feldman, has stopped and sat down, hoping to rest for less than 60 seconds before hopping back up. This strategy has had mixed results so far, because once you sit down, it is not easy to get back up. And after a few successful pit stops, number 11 has earned his first warning, followed shortly by a second. And now he is sitting down once again. I think out of habit, a potentially deadly one. And now that is Feldman's third warning. Number 11 is bouncing back up. No more resting for the next hour at least if he wants to live to see the dawn. Ooh, but his knees are buckling and he cannot get his stride back. He's only walking at about 3 miles per hour now. Even Stebbins is leaving this poor kid far behind in the proverbial dust. A soldier on the half-track is pointing his carbine at him. The soldier looks just about as sleepy as some of the walkers. Oh dear, our soldier friend must be tired indeed, because the bullet that was probably meant to be a headshot went directly into the groin, and Feldman is not happy, to say the least. The soldier seems to be taking his time to finish off this poor young man, and oh, it looks like his gun is jammed. Oh, there it goes. That should fix it. Well, now Feldman is out of his misery, and the soldier seems a little embarrassed. He should probably get himself some coffee. And if he truly wants to stay awake, he should get himself a piping hot cup of coffee from our sponsors at Dixie Boy Truck Stop. Get your motor revving at Dixie Boy. Their coffee comes with extra caffeine, 3 spoons of sugar, and if you ask nicely, just a little bit of meth. 74 walkers, still breathing, still on the move, still in it to win it. And it looks like number 48, Gribble, to keep himself awake, has returned to his activist ways. If you don't remember, folks, this is the little imp who complained about the major, not with any merit, of course, because the major is without flaws, but Gribble, nonetheless, has taken issue with the long walk. There's always at least one rebel in this event, and now it looks like our Marxist friend is trying to convince others, based upon my lip-reading skills. I think he's trying to organize some kind of demonstration or protest. Normally, such talk, of course, would get you squatted or even lynched, but you're in luck, Mr. Gribble, because when you are on the long walk, as long as you keep up the pace, you can say anything you want. How's that for freedom of speech? Back on the road, most of the competitors are starting to liven up in the darkness. It is now 3:48 a.m., and Baker and Morgan are chatting about music, Charlie Parker is kicking gravel at the half-track, and I see now that Percy has moved next to Stebbins at the rear, perhaps hoping to get some travel tips, but that jelly sandwich-loving teen is not in the business of helping a fellow walker, and Percy gets nothing but the silent treatment. Olson is still shambling onward. The way his head lolls back and forth, it's like his spine is turned into rubber. Wyman is telling his life story to Harkness, who is barely paying any attention, which I believe means that all thoughts of him becoming a novelist have been walked out of him. Oh, and is that the song of a robin I hear? Yes, I believe it is. And though it is still dark, the sky in the east ever so slightly is lightening. It is now 4 a.m., and the throng walks on. The boys are not as stretched out, not as distant from each other. Most of them are now walking in pairs or groups of 3, except for the ones like Olson, the ones that always seem to be on the brink of a punch ticket. They trod on in solitude. Oh, here comes a feisty little farm dog running up to the shoulder, yapping his head off. He's running back and forth. He does not like these walkers. The soldiers have their weapons at the ready because nobody, not even man's best friend, can interfere with the walkers on penalty of death. So I sure hope this furry old fellow doesn't get on the road, because it would just break my heart to see him get hurt. Oh, can you stay away, little guy? Oh, gosh. I just can't imagine anything worse than that happening. Oh, fortunately, the adorable little thing of evil is just defending his property. He is staying in his yard. You might say he's all Barkovich and no bite. And as we leave behind our four-legged friend, I can't think of a better time for this public service announcement. Pets. They aren't just our furry companions. They're part of the family. They'd do anything for us and go anywhere with us, just to look into our eyes or even our very souls. Who says sometimes dead is better? Not these adorable little guys. And yet, there are some people who just don't appreciate the love and attention their beloved animals have to offer. Some humans just aren't responsible pet owners, and they cast these noble creatures aside. That's why the Stephen King Pet Sanctuary needs your help to find a new home for each and every one of our four-legged friends. But not you, Roger. Get out of here, you freak. Welcome back to The Long Walk, ladies and gentlemen, and a happy hello to all the kiddos at home who have just woken up to watch cartoons. Sorry, but Popeye has been preempted. And down on the road, it looks like that someone has not been eating their spinach because number 41 looks awful wimpy. He has just slowed down. As simple as that, he's already earned a third warning. You would think that would get the adrenaline going, but he's just slowing down even more, just crying and shuffling his feet. There goes number 41. He was what he was. And what a shame, folks, because guess what is creeping upon the horizon? The dawn has arrived. Beams of sunlight casting upon the meadows, the forests, and the faces of these boys. These surviving walkers look like angels in the morning sunlight, chevaliers on a holy quest. It reminds me of Shakespeare. We few, we happy few, we band of brothers. Their spirits lifted, their hopes revived, their eyes dancing with the rekindled look of one who believes they are invincible. Ah, youth. What a glorious morning. It is 4:49 a.m., only 4 hours and 10 minutes until today's rations, a breakfast of champions, even if it's only pork paste and crackers. The boys are finding a newfound spring in their step. Even Olson, though haggard, is cracking jokes with Baker and the other boys. Ray Garrity and Peter McVrise are sharing macaroons and yucking it up as well. They almost look like a couple of friends on their way to school. Oh, but the camaraderie is cut short as they both receive a warning. You know, since the beginning of the race, I have been very curious about Peter McVrise, number 61. He's the boy with a long scar on the side of his face. Sometimes he seems like one of the group leaders of the boys. And then he suddenly shifts into loner mode. It's very hard to guess at his motivations for entering this. His essay doesn't reveal too much, except, of course, hints at a broken heart. You see, an ex-girlfriend is responsible for that scar. And he wouldn't be the first boy to enter this competition as a means of fulfilling a death wish. And now we are passing a truck stop, and you guessed it, it is a Dixie Boy. I've always extolled the virtues of their eye-opening coffee, but they also serve this amazing strawberry pie. So delicious, and I must have had 3 slices and I didn't gain a pound. In fact, I might be thinner. Several waitresses are taking a cigarette break and have come out to wave to the boys, and Charlie Parker, Mr. Friday Night, is not shying away from their gaze. In fact, he's flexing his muscles and blowing them a kiss. What a flirt. And in another merry turn of events, number 73, amateur comedian Bruce Pastor is cracking up his fellow walkers with some type of a knock-knock joke. Let's get these handy-dandy binoculars working and see if I can do some more lip reading to find out what's so funny. Let's see, he's talking to Garrity. Knock, knock. Who's there? Major. Major who? Major buggers his mother before breakfast. Oh, dear. Well, that is not funny at all, and it goes without saying that the sentiments expressed by the contestants do not represent the views of this station, which has nothing but admiration for the Major, and the Major's mother, and the Major's dog, Sheila. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you'll forgive the boys' immaturity, even though they volunteered for this so-called death march. They are just kids after all. So, the laughter has stopped, and who's that? Peter McVrise has stopped in his tracks as well. All the jocularity has vanished from the young man's face. He is furious, folks. He's standing there in the middle of the road, staring up at the soldiers on the half-track, yelling at them, earning himself a second warning. Folks, wasn't I just telling you about this odd duck of a teenager? There's so much potential and yet so much angst, such a self-destructive, naive. He is shouting expletives at the soldiers. He's challenging them to a fight. And unless McVrise is somehow bulletproof, I don't know how he thinks he will possibly stand against the Major's best trained men with America's finest automatic weapons, folks. And that is a third warning. Ladies and gentlemen, we are about to witness a punch ticket unlike any I've seen. A brazen young man trying to take on an entire army. And any moment now, his bravado will end in a shower of bullets. But wait, one of the walkers has shoved McVrise. It's number 47. Garrity is shoving him. Yet again, Garrity is willing to play the Good Samaritan, even when it goes against his best interests. And McVrise, pushed out of his delirium, he is now on the move and not happy. I don't think he realizes just how close to death he is. He seems almost bitter that Garrity has just saved his life. And we witness yet again the old adage that no good deed goes unpunished. Words of wisdom that number 47 really should heed if he wants to have any hope of reaching the end of this very long walk. And as we pause for a station break, I'd like to take the opportunity to thank the many benevolent folks who have joined our channel as a member, whether you've signed up as a constant watcher or have joined the illustrious number 1 fans. We here at the studio are touched by your continued generosity. So thank you for joining our long walk every step of the way. We will be back shortly. Thank you again, constant reader, for continuing to watch our coverage of The Long Walk, and thank you, as always, for liking and subscribing.